All right, good morning or afternoon, whenever you're watching this, it doesn't really matter. We're going to talk a little bit about superheroes and superhero powers. Now, this is going to be different than our talk about the history of comic books. So if you're looking for the history of comic books, you're only going to get a little bit of it here. If you want to talk about powers and character development, that's where we're at with this one. So I'm going to share my screen. Boom, boom. And the first thing I noticed right off the bat when I share my screen is I didn't manage to take out any of the words behind our pictures because they don't really show up when you're doing presentation mode. But when you're doing presentation mode, you can't switch your images. So it's kind of a double-edged sword. All right, so here we have two characters, Batman and Catwoman. And Batman is by far my favorite superhero of all time. He is not technically a superhero. He has no superpowers. He's really, really smart. He's really, really driven, and he is a supreme athlete. And he's got issues. He's got anger issues. He's got vengeance issues. That's what makes him interesting. He's not doing this because he's like Superman and he's been taught to do the right thing. He's doing this because something horrible happened to him as a child, and it turned him into this guy who goes out in the night and beats people up. And I always find characters with actual motivation to go do what they do rather than just because we're good people to be far more fascinating. Consequently, also Catwoman. She likes to break the rules. She's not technically even a good guy, but yet her and Batman have this whole on again, off again love relationship. So it makes it very interesting. The Punisher. Here's another hero that's not even a hero. He's kind of a non-hero. He has motivation, but his motivation led him down a much darker path than Batman. So once again, superhero without being a superhero. This is nothing new to the history of comic books. Since the invention of Batman back in 1939, there have been many costume superheroes that have no power. This guy, Wildcat, used to be a boxer. Nobody saw him for years, and then back in the 90s, they tried to bring him back. I always thought he was kind of cool, but he's a boxer in a funny suit. Not really a huge motivation. There are characters like the Arrow, or better known as Green Arrow, who have skills beyond what most normal people have, or even normal archers. Trust me, I shoot bow and arrow, and I'm pretty good at it. I'm not as good as he's supposed to be. Plus, he has trick arrows. I've tried to make some trick arrows. They don't really fly the way arrows are supposed to fly. So he is lumped in that superhero category, even though his real category is he's got better than average skills. All right. With someone with actual superpower, we start to come to Daredevil, which is, we notice we're slowly moving up the power ranking here. Daredevil has the ability to use his, it's not infrared, it's like sonar. He hears sounds, he can judge distance from the sounds. He has an advanced sense of taste and smell, of touch. He's got ninja quality skills. And he's one of the first ones we've come across with actual superpowers. The Black Panther, as cool as the Black Panther is, and as good of a fighter as he is, because he is an amazing warrior, the majority of Black Panther's livelihood or continued life comes from the fact he's in a bulletproof suit that absorbs kinetic hits. Now, that wasn't how he always was. That's how he's been since they've invented the concept of kinetic receptors. And then he gave him some adamantium claws or vibranium claws to hide within his gloves. So he's changed a bit over the years. Once again, his suit is doing a lot of the lifting in him being a hero. He's not alone. Tony Stark is brilliant. He has no superpowers. It's all the suit. Falcon, super brave, great fighter. Once again, the suit makes him fly. In War Machine, same thing. So out of all the characters that we've looked at so far, only Daredevil's had a true superpower, and it's a lesser known superpower. Other superpowers like super strength are options as you are creating your character. What makes the character interesting? Well, in the case of the Hulk was abused as a child. A lot of this stuff has come in later in the past 20, 30 years about him. He has kind of multiple personalities. They've managed to take a character that was very much a one-dimensional, I am strong and angry, and turn him into an interesting character. And that's part of what builds it up. The Thing is the exact opposite. He was never abused as a child. He is super strong, not as strong as the Hulk, but he's your average guy. What would your average guy do if he was trapped in this form? Because it's got to be difficult to have a love life when you look like a gravel pit. All right. So you need to think about your character in the sense of what's interesting about them, as well as what kind of power should they have. Should they have a power? Maybe you don't even want to give them a power. Maybe they're like a Batman type character. What most writers don't tell you is that every character they create is a bit of them. I'm sure when the lady who wrote Harry Potter, she wanted to be Hermione Granger, but part of her daydream, her pretend, her persona went into Harry Potter because she decides how he's going to act. Every one of those characters are a bit of us. You know, whether it's male or female, you're putting a bit of how you would like to see the world through that character, and you understand that character. So when I look at building a character, I try to take an aspect that's interesting and build on it. A character shouldn't just be strong. There should be something else there to play with. All right. Superpowered characters. Superman, from whence the term superhero comes from. He can fly. He's bulletproof. He's invulnerable. He's ungodly strong. He has laser eyes and freezy breath. All right. And he can run really fast. I really don't think he should be able to run faster than the Flash because that's the Flash's only trick is running fast. He can do a lot of things with it, but he can even travel time. But that helps define that character. So I always hated in the issues where they're like, who's faster, Superman or Flash? Well, really, it should be Flash. Superman's got enough going for him. All right, so these are characters. One was born on an alien planet. Your character could be born on an alien planet, gets his powers from our yellow sun. Flash was hit by a bolt of lightning around a bunch of chemicals. He became super fast. All right, these are kind of science or science fiction based characters. You also have magical characters. Wonder Woman. She was sculpted out of clay by her mother and imbued with life from the gods to be super strong, super fast, super noble. All right, she is a magical character, and that's why they basically say she can kind of go toe to toe with Superman because Superman is science and she's magic, and those are two different things. Also, the original Captain Marvel had the strength of Hercules, the wisdom of Solomon, the fortitude of Atlas, something else, something else, something else. All the letters spell the word Shazam. Now, that may be what he's known as today, Shazam. He used to be Captain Marvel. His magic word was Shazam. Here's what happened. Captain Marvel was a corporate takeover by DC Comics. They sued Wiz Comics, saying that Captain Marvel was a ripoff from Superman. He is not. Superman's science-based. Captain Marvel is magic-based. Somehow DC won. After the big legal battle that they had, they started to offer to buy Captain Marvel away from Wiz Comics. They rented him for a while. Eventually, they bought him outright. What they failed to note when they purchased the character is that the character's name, Captain Marvel, had never been copywritten before. Somebody dug into this at Marvel Comics because they wanted to do a character called Captain Marvel because they're Marvel Comics, and they found out that DC didn't copyright the name, neither did Wiz Comics. They turned around, copyright the name Captain Marvel. Boom. Marvel Comics now has a character named Captain Marvel. DC wants to sue them. They can't. They don't own a copyright. So the history of Captain Marvel has been a back and forth trauma. It gets even deeper than that, but that's the really quickly abridged version. Either way, both these characters, all magic based. Speaking of magic based, if you are a fan of magic, there are characters like Doctor Strange and Dr. Fate. You should create a character of your own that has the ability to cast spells or transverse other realms through items. Possibly even like Brother Voodoo, who I hope they bring into comic books or into movies at some point, because I always thought he was cool back in the 70s. He had a ghost brother that would follow him around, a twin that had died. Can't remember if the twin could do anything, but I'm pretty sure he could. And of course, there are wizards just straight up like Harry Potter. So maybe your character is going to be less superhero vein and more like, here's a mystery. And when I say superhero, it doesn't necessarily have to be a guy in a pair of tights. You might want to write a character who's a vampire or a werewolf, or you might want to create a character who got bit by a radioactive toaster and is Toaster Man. I don't know. That's up for you to decide. We're just talking about your possibilities. So far, we've had people with skills, people with reasons, people with cool suits, people with super strengths, people with magical strength, people who are actually wizards. And then we get into the elementals. I forget the name. Is it Katana? Katara from the Avatar was a waterbender. She could control water. Fathom over here from the elementals could also control water, and she could live underwater and breathe water. And I think she could talk to fish. I don't know. It's been a long time since I read that series. You have other elementals like the Human Torch, Iceman, the Angry Sister from also from Avatar. Or maybe you want to base your character's powers on a bug. Spider-Man, probably the most famous bug-based superhero of all time, followed by AntMan and the Wasp. Insects can do amazing things. Maybe you want to base your character's strength and powers upon those. Speaking of bug-based characters, Miles Morales, Spider-Man. I know that people in this modern age gender swap characters, they ethnically swap characters. How do I feel about it? Well, I guess it doesn't matter to, how I feel about it, but it does feel lazy to me. Did it work with Nick Fury? Yeah, it did. Nick Fury used to be white, and then somebody said Samuel Jackson should play Nick Fury. And we went, that's actually a really good idea. And so they changed the character and made him black. Now, they could have turned Peter Parker black. I don't know. But I'm glad they didn't, because they came up with a different Spider-Man named Miles Morales. And honestly, this has been my favorite character Marvel has come out with since Wolverine. So we're talking almost 50 years now. Wolverine came out in 1972, 74, something like that. He isn't Peter. He gets angry like a teenager does. He's often, he'll hit something a lot harder than he should, sometimes almost killing people. He has different powers. He has a different family background. They actually made such a different character out of him, even though he has similar powers to Spider-Man. Well, he's got Spider-Man's powers and more. So I'm really glad they went the extra mile and created a new character, because then Miles and Peter can interact, and, they're going to have different views on things because they're not the same people. And that's part of the reason I think that was a great idea. Some other places you've seen this. Wolverine, another one of my favorite characters of all time. They cloned him. They turned him into a girl Wolverine. They've done all kinds of goofy stuff. The amount of Wolverine-like characters running around the Marvel universe at this point, I think, is close to a dozen. There's a honey badger. You need to decide what it is you would like to be able to do so you can better figure out what it would be like to be that type of character. I always like the concept of being able to travel in time. I love the concept of being able to shapeshift. I allowed my character in my book series to do both. Not all at once. You know, he had to slowly grow into it. But that's what you kind of need to do, you know, or figure out a lame power that you could make cool. I was in a very long conversation with a student one day, and we were joking around about stupid superpowers. And I said that I must have the mutant ability to make people urinate because everybody who comes in my class needs to go to the bathroom for some reason. This devolved into this goofy conversation about if you have the ability to make somebody urinate, then, you know, somebody must be able to turn water into beer because beer makes you pee. And I'm like, why are you going down this route? And then I went, well, wait a minute. What if you could turn any liquid into an alcohol? What would that do? Well, your blood is mostly water. You know, there's other stuff in it. But if you turn that water into alcohol, somebody would go to fight you and they would drop. They would be too inebriated to fight. And I'm like, that's amazing. Or if you made a, you know, swimming pool full of moonshine, you threw a match in it, you could cause a lot of damage. I'm guessing. I've never seen that thing happen. Or if it was raining moonshine or whiskey and you set off a spark, you know, or if you had a water bottling company and you just walk down the aisles and turn it into different brands of alcohol, you could be a billionaire or at least a millionaire. So there's a lot that could be done with that as a character. And I started writing that story as well. So think about your powers, what you would like, or think about a power that you think's stupid, but then play with it. You know, what could be the cool part about having this power? You know, if you're, God forbid, your power is to make somebody urinate and a bunch of people tried to jump you and you went, woo, and they all went, and they ran away. Your power worked. It saved your life, you know, not just for getting out of speeding tickets. It actually is, you know, a lifesaver. So that's what I want you guys to do. Figure out what you would like to see as a superpower, either for yourself or if you have to do it with somebody else because you can't commit to the superpower you like, you're welcome to do that too. All right. I've said enough for today. Think about it. I will see you guys later. Bye-bye.